Now, before we start learning how to optimize the various devices, I just wanted to show you one last thing. If you remembered early on, there was a bit of a difficulty in moving or selecting the size of these buttons. So just a quick edit or a quick recap, and I realized why this was happening is because of the breadcrumbs. So this is where the breadcrumbs rules become really important. I did not realize that when I was adjusting the one button earlier on, I was actually not selecting the button element. And that's why I should have looked at the breadcrumbs. So if the thing is not moving or adjusting the way that you want it to be, always go back to the breadcrumbs. And the reason why the links button was not adjusting the way I wanted it was because I was selecting the container. And that is why when I selected the size, it was moving towards the left like that. And when there was just one button, it's really hard to see it. It's easy to miss out. Why? Because the button was together very closely with the overall container. So it looked like I was selecting the button to adjust the size, but I was actually selecting the container instead of just adjusting the button inside. So the simple solution is simply to select the button element. And sometimes you can hover over it and you will see that you are able to select the button. So I'm selecting it more towards the side. If I try to click on the button itself, it's not really selecting. So that's why I need to press on save to reset the canvas. And you can see that as I put the mouse over it, there will be a red triangle that hovers over the area. So that will tell me what am I selecting. So if I hover over it, you can see that it's selecting the button main label. And we don't want to select the button main label. We want to select the button. And that's when you can edit the text. You can change the color and so on. So that's the last thing I wanted to say about adjusting the size of the element. Now let's get right to optimizing across the views across the devices. And now with optimizing the views, the most important thing is to know what view you are working on. And so I have got this simple diagram to show you that when you select the selector, by default, if you can see here, this selector has got everything on. But if you switch it off, then you will be selecting or making edits to the desktop device. And if you click on it one more time, you click this icon here, then it would only create changes to the laptop device. And as you move towards the left, you need to be aware that if you turn this on, then you will be making changes only to the horizontal, tablet device, vertical, and mobile devices. Now, this is important because you want to be optimizing the devices. So think of it as having a clay sculpture, and you have made the first sculpture or the outline of it, and you want to chisel your sculpture so that it looks perfect. So it's the same with creating the website here. Once you have built the main website or the main device, once the desktop is properly designed in the way that you want it, and let's just say that this is the design that you want it to be, you go with spacing, okay? And let's just say that you want to ensure that it's about 30. And well, whatever size, if you're happy with it, then if you're ready to build upon the next device, that's when you start optimizing and perfecting what it looks like. This diagram here just shows you what I was just explaining. So if everything is on, then all changes will apply across the board: desktop, laptop, horizontal, vertical, and mobile. So let me just show you what I mean. So now that the desktop is done, you want to make changes to the design of the laptop device. And if you're quite happy that the laptop is just a smaller version of the desktop, it looks all right. So you could just, in the current state, leave it alone. Or if you wanted to make the image look a bit smaller, you could probably do that by clicking on the size. So maybe if 150 is a bit too big, you may want to make it 120, for example, and so it becomes smaller. And so the number here is helpful because you want to, as you go towards the smaller devices, also follow it as a start, 120, 120. If it's too big or too small, you can adjust accordingly. And now you can see that, for example, if you change the text, just to illustrate to you that the change only applies to one device. If you have switched on only applying changes to the horizontal tablet device, then only the tablet device will have the yellow color, where everything else would still be white. So that's what it means, whereby if you select changes to only apply to one device, that's what happens. And this is important because you want each device to appear a certain way. This is due to the dimensions of every device being different. So you want to make sure all the devices appear the way that you want it to be. And now, so you can see that with this horizontal tablet device, there's a little bit more gap than the normal, than the laptop device. So you might want to make it a bit smaller. So you just click on both, then you make changes to both padding and just to make it smaller. So the rule of thumb is to work from the bigger devices all the way down to the smallest devices of the mobile. So this looks pretty decent already. Then we will move on to the smaller one. So how I like to work on optimizing is to optimize element by element. So if I'm happy with the image, I'll just select on the size 120 and I'll move on to the next one, which retains the original 150 from the desktop. So I'll just go with 120 to see if it is acceptable. If 120 is, it looks all right, 120. So I'll just continue to optimize this element on the next device, 120. The reason I don't want to skip working on an image, then on the text, that means to optimize everything before moving on, is that I don't want to miss out on anything. So if I'm adjusting all the sizes of the images, I'll do that across the board before moving to the next element, which is the text. So you can see here as well that the text is 25 on the desktop, 25 on the laptop, and then on the tablet is 25 and it's 25 on the small devices. It looks all right, but with some websites, you may want to make it smaller. So maybe with the mobile device, you might want to make it a 23, and here you may want to make it 23 so it views better. The thing about this exercise is that you want to always save it and you want to always publish it. And the thing about publishing it just means that it will become online. And what you should always do is to have these devices ready. So that means you should try to check your changes on the actual website which you have published on your desktop, on your laptop, and on your tablet, and on your phone, and so on. Now that you have changed the text, it is time to move on to the next part, which is this gap over here, or this padding over here. So again, the rule of thumb is always to change or edit bit by bit, the same element as you go down. So just now we went for 20 with this tablet. So we should apply the same number as you go down. And ultimately, the devices lets you see what are the actual changes you have done. So ultimately, you want to look at the actual change on the actual device. And that's the best way to ensure that the actual site appears the way that you want it to be. It is to actually look at the actual publish page so that it appears exactly as you want it to be. That is the area over here. So the next thing that you want to edit, because the laptop view is all right, then the only thing left to do is to adjust the horizontal tablet devices and so on. So here the buttons look quite decent, but of course, if you think that it is too big, usually as you go towards the smaller devices, you may want to adjust it according to the size. So here, the size is 63 relative to parent. So you may, let's say, make it smaller. That is to adjust the width. So 63 was original. Maybe if you want to make it a bit more sleek, you could change it to 50. So it looks a bit smaller. But this is a matter of design. The other way that you could do it, if you wanted to save the time, is instead of changing every single thing, and this is according to your preference, would be to adjust one element, one button, and make sure that it's optimized across all devices. So let's say that you wanted to make it smaller as well, maybe not too small, 45. And then the last one, you wanted to make it a little bit, maybe a bit bigger, because here I'm going to make it a bit longer. So you can see that there are various, let's make this 160. There are various sizes across the devices. So if you wanted to avoid having to change every single button all over again, what I would do is to simply delete everything and just copy on top of the first link. But of course, I would then have to rename it according to what the label should be. So link 1, link 2, link 3, link 4, and 5. So by doing that, I don't have to adjust every single box again. I will just copy and paste from the first box, and then what is left is simply to change the label or the description of the button, which I have to do anyways when I set up the URL to what I want to link it to. That's it. Link 1, so I just have to change it to link 2. But remember, because this button is toggled as only applying changes to 1, it with the colors, it would not go across the board. But as you can see here, when I change link 2, even though this is switched off, everything also changes. And then because I'm actually editing the button itself, so it does go across the board. But just be very aware about this toggle, this switch over here, because sometimes if you accidentally forget to switch it on, then you might end up just changing the background for one view and everything else does not get changed together with it. That is not really a big issue, because let me just demonstrate to you. In case you forget to change or switch on the toggle for everything and you have only made a difference or changed to 1, let's just say that you changed only the color for this view over here to pink, and you actually wanted everything else to be pink, or this red, pinkish red color, everything else is not the red. What you could do is, because this color is already here, what I would do is to go on background, get the color, copy and paste the code, or just remember the color code, and just toggle on again. Okay, toggle on again. And there are a few ways to do it, but there's also the spectrum. And I would just paste it again, paste the color, and click on the tick button. And just like that, everything else gets changed in the way that I want it to be. So let me just undo that and just get back the color. So it's very versatile. Even if you do make mistakes, there are always ways to correct it and to get the page to appear the way that you want it to be. So that's done. That is the first exercise done. So if you are able to build your links website in the way that I've demonstrated to you, you would have learned all the basic competencies in dragging and dropping and building your website on Groove pages. If you know how to do this, then you can make more and more complex websites as you go along. So that's the first practical exercise, which is the links website. And let me just recap to make sure that I have gone through everything: the resizing, auto, layout, spacing, and all of this. So we have gone through all of that. 1 and 2 we've also done. And I suppose the last thing I want to show you before we move on to building a company website using the same skills is that with configuring the buttons, there are a lot of options and ways that you could configure these buttons. For your links website, you can see and look at the applications out there. There are people who link up their buttons to a booking app, for example. You can link it up to almost anything that you can think of. And you can see all the options here. You can link it to a page within your website. So if you had a page within your website, you can see that there are all these options within Groove Pages. That's what you could do. You could link it to a blog. So a blog, as I mentioned, you could link it to, if your page consists of a few blocks, and probably we can see this in the company's website. If you link it to a bottom block by clicking the button, then it will jump to that block in your page. The next thing is a URL, and this is the most common one. Your button leads you to a link, an external link, or whichever link that you want. And these are block, card, pop-up are internal integration. So you could, if you have a blog, then you could, but there's no blog in this account, then you can't link it to the blog. If there's card, this Groove card is a bit like a Shopify app within the Groove app. And don't worry about that for now. You can just skip it. Or you could link it up to a pop-up. So again, a pop-up is something which you could configure in Groove pages. Again, at this stage, I think we should make things simple, but pop-ups is this area over here. You could create a pop-up, and there are templates for you to choose from. And this, most of it is premium. But if you just linked it to any pop-up like a blank template, you could, in the same way as creating your Groove page, your website, you can add in photos and tags and whatnot. So this is in the same way you've got an empty container, you add elements into it. Maybe you add in a text, and maybe you want to add in a image and so on. And so you start editing your pop-up from this area over here, which is under pop-ups. You save and exit. And once your pop-up is saved and designed, then your button will open up a pop-up on your page. So that is just an application of these buttons. But for the sake of this exercise, I would suggest keep it simple. Just make a simple button and you can connect it to any link that you want. And as I said from the sales page from the beginning, this is your minimum viable website. If you are able to publish this to your domain, then at the end of this challenge, or at this stage already halfway through the challenge, you already have your custom domain website and is as good as a digital name card. So you could configure all these buttons to lead to all your links, and you could even configure it to open up a QR code, for example. If you have got a QR code, you can create that pop-up and place your QR code so that when somebody clicks on it, they have a QR code to scan. This is just an application. It's up to you how you want to design your button. Your button could be as simple as adding and you can look online for VCF codes. So VCF code is if you have seen when people click on the button, then it will automatically pop up the contact details of your phone. You can save your phone, you can save your name and all your contact details, and people can add your phone number with a click of a button. So that is just another application of the links website. And now that I have shown you the actual published site, you can see there's a bit of a white space over here on this website. So that simply means that the padding needs to be increased. Because this website is too short, I just need to click on the block, adjust the padding. And so 50 on top, I may want to just increase it a little bit, push everything down, but it appears that the bottom needs to be increased a little bit more. So I'll just change it to 60 and or maybe a bit longer, 70, and save it and publish it. And when you see the green notification at the bottom, it means that the publication or the updating of the website has been done. So you can see that it's slightly a bit longer, but still it's too short. So that means that I need to make it much longer. So again, with the spacing, let's just go a bit bigger this time. Let's go to 120 so that it fills up the whole page. Publish it. And so these are just some of the things that it says site publish in progress, some of the things which you should notice, and just realize that every single part of your website can always be customized easily. So it's almost there, 120, it's not long enough. So I think if we just made it 140, should be more than enough. Save it. Always remember to save your pages, save and publish it. And you will see that the page should appear fully on your website. So this is your complete links website. And there we have it, your links website. This is one of the exercises for day 3. Now let's move on to making your basic company website consisting of these blocks over here: a navigation bar, a hero section, content, and a footer. So let's begin.